Hey everyone, Aisha Love here, Multidimensional You. Wow, so in this next installment of the Healing Renaissance video series, I am so happy to announce that the doors to the emergence experience are now open again. Yeah, you can feel that energetic invitation. The Awakening course has always been available because it's a kind of do-it-yourself 6-month course, but the rest of the group programs and now some other options that I probably won't talk about today, but maybe a little bit further along, are open again and inviting those of you interested in the inner journey and a deep dive and an immersive experience where you really reclaim yourself as your own guru and your own source self and your own greater self and your own multidimensional self. This is for you. This invitation is for you. And I was told before I got on to make the video to demo what we do. I'll talk about the details of these programs here in a minute. There are 4 different tracks. It's like a 3.5 year total if you want to go that far program. But I was told to focus on the subject, very timely for this Healing Renaissance video, on psychic hygiene. Yeah. And so this is what happens when we get together as a group twice a month. I just show up like everyone else, but I have the privilege of being able to channel my own greater multidimensional self and structure, as well as your spirit guides. And so this kind of, think of it like I'm being shown like a college. So the faculty, the administration, once in a while, they all come together, right, to consult, to confer, to converse, to take stock, and to share. And this is a lot of what our greater selves, who are not, kind of just stuck in a real dense physical experience, distracted by 3D concerns, are doing. And then when we're in this container, they get to come together and bring through what is most timely for those people that are showing up. So I don't have to prepare, which is beautiful. I just have to show up. Right now, having said that, they're like, give yourself some credit, because the preparation has been decades of, well, here, see how they use this? Psychic hygiene. Decades of clearing out my field, clearing out the noise, overcoming imposter syndrome. I had that in the early days before I understood you don't have to be qualified. You just have to be called. And when you answer the call, the inner call, whoa, it's amazing. The qualifications you discover that were already there, that are normal, kind of normal. Conventional society never developed or curated. Okay. So psychic hygiene is really important. And we're going to switch to the we pronoun because we're going collective now. We don't bring this to you as a simple cleaning so that you feel better. While that is a wonderful result, in these times, it's imperative that you understand that if you do not keep a clean house, you will not be able to find what you're looking for. And many of you are being called and you are looking. But there is so much inner clutter. You see where we're going with the metaphor. Just as in your homes, you would not be able to find your keys if you did not tidy things up and keep things organized. And especially if you allowed many people to enter your home with a lot of debris on their footwear. And this is the analogy we're using to describe the way that a lack of boundaries works, for example. And so psychic hygiene encompasses a wide swath of different areas and aspects of your bioenergetic field, your emotional body, in the way that you perceive. Many emotions are yours, but they are not. So you are seeing mud in your house, so to speak, and thinking that you tracked it in when it was your neighbor, for example, or your brother, right? You see where we're going. This is why psychic hygiene is so important. And we like to begin with the greater context of why, so that you're motivated for the right reasons. We're going to speak a little bit about the, we could call it a pandemic of feeling special. This is quite the consciousness trap. It's interesting to perhaps dip a toe in to explore, I am special because I have special abilities, but we wish you to understand that this falls right into the hierarchical compartmentalization, otherwise known as fragmentation, of your greater self. So it's a foothold trap, if you will, and you might get a foot stuck there and then learn how to twist your ankle and get out and realize that this is not what we are talking about. This should not be the motivation. Pursuing metaphysical reactivation, we would say these are abilities you came in with. It's not learning something new, it's simply remembering, is not an invitation to be special. It is an invitation to come back into a greater state of wholeness and coherence, unity within the self. And then that informs the field and allows a greater invitation of unity with others. So we have gone fairly quickly, but we wish you to understand that psychic hygiene is not necessarily just about feeling better. That is almost a side benefit and more of your natural state of being. Yeah. They're asking me to pause to let that really sink in. I get this, okay, this is me talking. I get this because I remember when I first started doing this clearing work of my energy centers and chakras and some other modalities that came from within, I remember thinking oh my gosh, all these years, I thought all this was mine. Oh my gosh, I've been carrying around all this gunk that isn't even mine. Right? And then that really motivated me to be very clear about, okay, what am I carrying for other people? Because it makes me feel like crap. Can anyone relate? Better late than never, right? Okay, so we're letting that pause just sustain itself. When I ask why, they're just showing me it's because certain things are processing in real time. Whatever that is for you, whenever you happen to listen to this. Yeah, really let that drop out of your head and down into your heart, maybe down into the solar plexus, down into the root, base of your spine. Just take a few breaths. Go, oh my gosh, I got that memo. Not all of this is mine. In fact, maybe a majority of it's not mine. Okay, so now that you have ascertained the situation, which is a huge part of being able to make decisions in an informed way, you can move forward in an understanding that the ultimate goal is evolution back into a greater state of unity, not only as an individual, but ultimately, of course, as a race collective. This is the bigger journey that all of you are on. And when we say all, we don't necessarily just mean your planet. We mean all of your multidimensional aspects across all star systems, across all dimensions. Now you kind of get the picture, don't you? So what can seem like a small act of, I'm going to sweep my house, clean the floor. This is Aisha. I just did that this morning. No coincidences, right? And the feeling, yes, so the feeling that she gets from cleaning house and that we know all of you can relate to is the very same process that we're inviting you into here. So to break it down further for you, in order to be able to find that which is calling you, i.e. that which you are seeking and looking for, it is important to clear out the inner space which goes beyond the human form in order to be able to access files, if you will, that you stored for just this time. In order to access them, however, you cannot have a great deal of inner noise and distraction and clutter. You will not be able to find what you are looking for. The good news is that what you are looking for is looking for you, so to speak. It is calling to you. So when you learn to clear out, quiet down, and tune in, it is very easy for you to find that which is calling you. And in your human lives, take aligned steps. Okay, so just then you watched me kind of go like this because they showed me something to say yes, tell that story, right? I'm having an inner conversation at the same time that I'm bringing this information through. And I've learned over the years how to it's like multitasking, right? It's like being aware of so much all at once and then when to bring it in. So here's what they were asking, saying, yeah, go ahead and share that. So just this morning, I felt called to go into connection, back into some inner spaces that I haven't visited in a while. 3D life has been fairly distracting. Lots of purging, like I know all of you know. You know, we just went through the super full moon. Wow. That's a different, yeah. So I get to confer the benefit here, and many of you know this, is when you have your own kind of council set up, you can confer anytime. We'll talk about setting a new foundation, I think, in a little bit here. I'm not sure if it's going to make this video or not. But essentially, I went into some inner spaces because I'm in the process of setting up an entirely new foundation. This is almost like not even just the next chapter of life, but the next book, if you will. And many of you can relate, I'm being shown. And I went to very familiar spaces in the higher dimensions that I've visited many times. Interestingly, to the point they were making, I didn't have to wander around and try to figure out who I was looking for. As soon as I made my way to the doors and opened them and was back in that familiar space, I was immediately whisked to a conference room where it's very clear what my next steps are here and what's being organized and who's handling what and at what level and what I need to pay attention to, what I do not. And then poof, I'm back focused here. Okay. So that's what is possible when you don't have a lot of inner doubt and skeptic and inner critic and just cross waves and trying to access, but then going, I don't know if that's real, and I don't know if I should believe that. And I mean, I get it. I have compassion because we want to protect ourselves. We don't want to have disappointment. But ultimately, you know, what this back to basics is, okay, they're going to take over here again, or we are, I should say. It's a we. The back to basics that Aisha is referring to has to do with a clean sweep of what you might consider an inherited foundation. The inherited foundation came with, in some cases, perhaps a lot of unprocessed information. This period that you all are transiting is helping you purge and process a lot of old, let's call them files, many of which you are deeming not worthy of keeping. So they are getting tossed, as they should be. They are no longer relevant to your path going forward. They are no longer helpful to your life journey. They have provided the value of contrast, and now you are moving on. Going forward, as you clear out and come back to the basics of this commitment to psychic hygiene, this allows you to now put yourself together and your new foundation together in a way that serves your higher purpose. So coming back to the analogy of trying to find your keys, you don't have to search through so much clutter when you've done the inner cleaning. And that which you are wanting clarity on is simply clear from within in a way that it wasn't before. And so you can sit back more and relax and breathe and trust that in the right timing, you will know exactly what step to take. And you will not feel anxious about a state of not knowing, because you trust that that clear, quiet space is simply divine, right timing, spacing and pacing itself. We understand that the human is very used to being very busy, filling in all the gaps. And so psychic hygiene also includes a rebalancing. Some of you have experienced too much stagnation. You have the value of that contrast. And now things are ready to move again. Or you have been too busy and it's time to slow it down. Do you see how the commitment to psychic hygiene is a very individual experience? I'm getting distracted. My kitty, who's actually a puppy, is playing over there. Okay, let's come back to the thread. I can feel that they're starting to wrap up. I always get that sense because what feels like a river coming all of a sudden starts to come to a trickle energetically. And we want to start to tie up loose ends. Okay, so we'll finish by explaining that so much of what you're seeking to understand and ascertain and clarify, ironically, is found in the quieter space and in the letting go of trying. You see, there's no trying. There's only the free inner space of knowing and then deciding. But you know, the decision has already been made at a greater part of your structure. It's really about allowing and giving permission for your human personality to align with that. And we understand there are many reasons for which that is not always easy. Again, this is why psychic hygiene is being called to the fore at this time. I can feel some of you wondering, what are you talking about when you talk about psychic hygiene? It's a broad area, like, we just kind of described. In essence, we're talking about being able to clear out our energy centers. That's what my daily grounding and meditation is for, as well as evictions, extractions, things like that, changing our frequency so that, influences that vibrate in lower set of frequencies, it just doesn't become as habitable for them. Boundaries become really important, an ounce of prevention it's worth a pound of cure. And especially becoming even more mindful about where our attention is going. So there's a lot of curated conflict these days, and it really behooves us to stay out of that. The other area I'm seeing that's become very important is to, both within yourself and then watching out for others who are in this state, staying out of overly identifying with a victim identity, I'm a victim, and chronic anger. If you're in those chronic victim anger states, just huge disclaimer, like PSA, public service announcement, get out now. Because you're setting up a vibrational resonance with things that you do not want playing around in your field. So this is why boundaries become really important. If people are allowing themselves to kind of black hole into those states of being, again, not for a day or an hour, right? We all go through our emotions like waves, but like chronically, and it's kind of becoming part of their identity. You really want to be careful because it's an interesting time. I'll just leave it at that. And so that's what we're talking about in general, but mostly it's within ourselves, boundaries within ourselves, to have an awareness of what we're thinking, what we're giving our attention to, being able to swipe left or next, sometimes we use the analogy of flush that toilet, nope, don't need that as my attention. Okay. And again, yes, there are definitely benefits in terms of not, I don't know, like washing your hands, not rubbing your eyes when it's cold and flu season prevents illness. And this is the same thing, but with energy dis-ease. So I know for a fact that all of the emergence tracks this year that have just reopened are going to start with setting a new foundation and doing a lot of clearing and psychic hygiene work to be able to set that beautiful new foundation. Okay, so what are we talking about? What is the emergence experience? The emergence experience is a 12-month immersive experiential deep dive to reclaim your essential eternal self and get to play in multidimensional physics and all sorts of amazing inner technology that, frankly, to me is the new cutting edge. It's not gadgets out there anymore. It's consciousness in here. And so it's really for those of you who are feeling called to something more, especially if you can't really define what that more is. You don't, like I said earlier, you don't need to be qualified. I see a lot of people come in and feel like imposter syndrome, just like I did. Like, who am I to say I can do all that and what? I don't have that background. Actually, in some ways, in some cases, it's better if you don't, because you don't bring a bunch of baggage or dogma or, tight little boxes that you put yourself in around all of that. And you're free and clear to be able to allow your structure to inform you from within rather than adopt a whole bunch of philosophies and dogmas and all of that. That's not what this is. This is the inner self being able to express itself and expand itself and ultimately emanate itself and shift reality from within. It's the ultimate reality hack. And so, yeah, it's 12 months long. For activation, that's the main one I'm opening right now. If you have already completed activation and you would like to go on to expansion, that is open as well. And on the application form, there is a spot to check that that's what you're after. But mainly, I think what I'm being shown is there's a whole new cohort of people coming in at the activation level, meaning you're not at just a newbie awakening. You know, you're not just starting your awakening. That's what the Awakening Foundations course is for. And that information is all on these links that I'm including. Activation is really for those of you who have been awake for a while, and maybe you've been dabbling in some, you know, as a metaphysician in some way, maybe not at all, in a conventional way, right? Conscious way. And you just know that you're being called to more. You're being called to evolve your purpose, find your greater purpose, and begin to align with that. And it's a really, you know, over the years, what I've seen is this beautiful, gentle, winding yourself almost. And it's around the spiral, right? Because that spiral is the journey home. We descended, took on all this, you know, stuff here, these roles and identities and ideas and belief systems. And now we're kind of going, wait, what? And pulling ourselves up and out. And really, it's a huge process of shedding all that you are not, so that who you've been all along can start to shine much, much brighter. And like we've talked about in past Healing Renaissance videos, that's the definition of a healer. You're just simply flipping the script, inverting so many programs and being that. I mean, great if you want to set up a whole business around it. If there are a lot of you, by the way, who have businesses or wanting to start them, I'm willing to set up like a separate monthly call for that, where I'll just give you everything I've got in terms of my own experience. We'll call it office hours. As well as I do have this amazing ability to see, you know, what your destiny is, so to speak, what your pre-birth plan was, like what you're trying to set up, what you're trying to connect with, who you're trying to serve, right? And that could be pretty confusing for all the reasons we've been talking about today. So that's kind of an aside. But again, you don't have to already be doing this in an official capacity or even want to do it in an official paid capacity. Just your presence walking around on the earth plane in this shifted, transformed way is the very definition of being a healer, okay? And that might not be your goal either, although I'm seeing everything kind of converge and be brought together. Your goal might be greater freedom. If I'm honest, that's what's driven me for decades. Freedom, self-liberation. I think I'm allergic to density. Like, these shoes are too tight, this box is too small. Nope, right? And so that process of shedding all that we took on, so again, we can be who we came to be. So if this journey is speaking to you, enrollment is officially open, and it will be open for the month of September. We're going to get going with our bi-weekly calls towards the end of the month, and all the information is on the page. There's weekly emails, resource emails, there are modules, there are private groups for those of you participating in each track, so you have a space to connect with others. In the past, I've assigned people adventure buddies. We might do that again this year. I'm pretty good at matching, again, because I'm able to ascertain the greater field. Some of those folks in the past have formed lifelong friendships. And, you know, just as an aside, you know, I as I've come back into the world more after my big retreat and reformatting, it's been really special to see people who, former clients who I haven't seen in years, on social media, and just where they've taken this and how they've evolved. And yeah, it's kind of making me emotional, because it's like, wow, like this level of change and transformation is possible. You know, it's not just probable, it is possible, and it is being done. And so that's what I would offer you, is like, if I could channel all my past clients who've done that, it's like, don't be afraid to be yourself. You will be blown away at how good life gets. Yeah. Part of that's them. And then me, I'm like, yes. And I always feel like I want to give people the heads up. You're like, you said it was going to be great. And it's like, and you might need to deconstruct some stuff first, or along the way, or further down the road. You know, I've certainly been through an enormous deconstruction myself, so I get it. That is not the most fun part, but it's a choice to choose what we think about the deconstruction. So we can be in a, oh, poor me, there's the victim narrative I warned about. And sure, there's real grief and there's real sadness, but we have a choice. We can say, I'm so grateful for that which came before, and now I'm really grateful I get to start a new foundation, something new. So, and that's all part of psychic hygiene as well, is like really being mindful of the narratives that you choose to adopt, because they quite literally make all the difference in how you feel throughout your day. This is why gratitude practice at the top of the day has become so popular in coaching, because it really makes a difference, right? Yeah. The other thing that's important to mention about the emergence experience is that you get an individual private session once a quarter. So this is where you and I go much deeper, and you can get a little bit more of that personal attention and support you need. What's amazing about the group calls is that as participants listen to one another talking, they are gaining so much reflection themselves. So this is the power of the group. And it looks like my multidimensional field work and travels are going to be picking back up again soon. So I look forward to bringing you along on my journey. That's the beauty of reconfiguring this business years ago, to be able to work remotely from anywhere. So it's sure to be an amazing year. And you definitely will not be the same person at the end, in a really good way. So the doors are open. You're welcome to come through. I hope you will. All right. I love you all.